Okay, so the first intervention was not a question, but it was about the taboos. And one of the taboos was the corporate corruption of politics in the US, bribing politicians and so on. And Youssef said he will run for the vacant Senate seat to challenge the corruption of the political system. The second question was about Europe understanding the issues in Palestine more, maybe because of less media censorship. But the question comes back to, why should Americans care? You've got enough to worry about. Why should Americans even care? I attempted to answer that, but I'll put it in a different way now. Americans should care for several reasons. The most important of these reasons is because, as I said, your tax money is the main culprit in maintaining Israel's regime of occupation, colonialism, and apartheid against the Palestinian people. So that engenders moral responsibility. So that's a very important level of responsibility that comes because of your tax money being used that way. But also because there's a lot of interconnections between the struggles. When people say, even some very smart intellectuals say, Israel is sustained by so much US money and diplomatic support and so on because it serves US interests. I mean, you always hear that. From Obama to every congressperson to every elected councilman, woman in this country, they all repeat the same mantra. Israel serves US interests. And no one questions whose interests exactly does Israel serve. I mean, that's hardly ever debated. It serves the interests of the 1% America, not the 99% America. I can't see how people in Detroit, suffering from deteriorating health services, private prisons, education, health system, all the problems that you're having in this city, can benefit from sending Israel billions of dollars to ethnically cleansed Palestinians. How does that serve people in Detroit? It doesn't. It doesn't serve anyone in the United States except the tiny, extremely powerful minority in the military establishment. They're the ones that truly benefit from Israel. It serves that America, not this America, not the 99% America. So I think that's a very important point to always bring up. Why should Americans care? Because it's connected. The fact that your entire system is not just corrupt, as was mentioned. I mean, it's the case study in political corruption is the American political system. I mean, that's a textbook case that should be studied for generations. How to create the perfectly corrupt political system. America, case study. It's not just that, I think. It's the interconnections. It's the same large corporations that are doing all this injustice in this country that are also helping in the Israeli injustices against us. So we start to make those connections. Certain companies are involved, as I said, in the wall with Mexico, oppressing immigrant rights and so on, or incarceration of blacks in prisons. The same companies involved in Israeli prisons. So it's important to see those connections. And I think that's another reason why Americans should care. And at the last level, the overall humanistic responsibility to fight injustice everywhere, as Martin Luther King once said. But that's the highest level. That's the last thing. Those who still see in them the energy and the power to help people under stress somewhere else, then that's another reason. But at the very very least, withdraw support. Withdraw. End your own complicity. That's the most immediate, urgent task being discussed. How soon can we see a boycott of Israel at the Olympics? The whole sports boycott part of BDS has been progressing slowly. Actually, I would say slower than academic, cultural, even economic boycott. Israel is not very big on sports, unlike South Africa, for example. In South Africa, the sports boycott was it. Of the entire spectrum of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement in South Africa, the sports boycott hurt them the most. Because this is a country that was, the white minority, fanatic about sports. So for them to suddenly wake up and say, oh, we cannot compete in the Commonwealth Rugby Championship, life is not worth living. I mean, who are we if we cannot play rugby? That's the end of life as we know it. So to them, okay, I'm exaggerating, but I mean, it was an existential issue to them to be so ostracized in sports competitions around the world. It really was very effective in the psyche of the Afrikaner minority. In Israel, it's the academy. The equivalent is the academy. Israel, the academy plays that role. It's a pillar, a main pillar in the system of oppression. So attacking the Israeli academy is what hurts the most at this point. The most. Because that's where the fabricated image, the deceptive image projected on a world stage of Israel is created, in the academy. That's why the entire Israeli political system is in a war mode against the American Studies Association. An American academic association of less than 4,000 members is being fought by the entire Israeli system and its allies everywhere. Just imagine. So they take this extremely seriously. That's Israel's Achilles heel. You attack the academy, and you're attacking a very important pillar in the system in Israel. Not to belittle the value of a truly effective campaign to boycott Israel at the Olympics, but we cannot win this one now. The stakes are way against us. We don't start campaigns that we cannot win. We're volunteers. We have limited human resources. We invest in, to use financial terms, the highest return on investment kind of areas, not the lower returns on investment. So if I'm going to invest 5 days of my life, I want to see a much higher return. I can't just invest it for the sake of doing something right or having fun. We sometimes do have fun, but it's not enough. We've got to succeed. We're not in it for fun. We're in it for our rights. So we have to be extremely efficient, extremely strategic about where to invest our energies. And a sports boycott at this point is just not a top priority given our human capacity. And the last Hassan's point was a suggestion to form an action group working on helping our brothers and sisters in the Presbyterian Church to face the wrath of the lobby when divestment comes back to the table. So yes, I fully second Hassan's suggestion. It's extremely important. Yes, Barbara, you wanted to add something to this?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Hassan, thank you for asking the question. I think that your suggestion is the highest priority for the local activism that the sign-up sheet out there is asking you to sign up for. Because this is our opportunity to have the greatest possible impact right here in Detroit without taking a plane anywhere. We can go out to our community churches and synagogues and mosques and try to bring the message locally to the entire religious community about why it is important for the entire religious community to go to the Presbyterian GA, General Assembly, when it's here in June, to express support for the BDS resolution. This resolution came a hair's breadth away, 2 votes, at the last General Assembly. If we do this, if we show strong local support, it has an excellent chance of being adopted, and that will be such a huge victory.
In a meeting we had with young leaders in the Presbyterian Church, had a delegation in Palestine, which I had the honor of addressing that group days before coming here. And I was very impressed by their energy, their creativity, which is refreshing. But they mentioned one of the tactics used by the Israel lobby to sabotage the divestment vote the last time, around 2 years ago, was interfaith. Interfaith groups are always used to hold churches hostage. So the goal becomes maintaining the so-called interfaith circus, rather than doing the right thing, pursuing justice. And I had a tour of several Presbyterian, Methodist, Episcopalian, and other churches a couple of years ago, and I challenged all the colleagues that I met in those churches that if you're engaged in a so-called interfaith dialogue group that does not mention justice, that is not based on international law and human rights for all human beings, you might as well call it interfail, not interfaith, because you're failing to stand up to basic human decency. It's a total waste of time and a lot of money spent on coffee and bagels. And otherwise, it's useless for humanity. You're being held hostage in a group that's absolutely complicit, because it's preventing you from doing the right thing, just to maintain this interfaith group. And a second point about interfaith groups is that they're mostly with not Jewish religious groups, not with synagogues usually, it's with the Israel lobby. Why should churches have an interfaith dialogue with the Jewish Federation of God knows what, which is a political lobby group that has nothing to do with religion? Are they the equivalent of the Presbyterian or Methodist or Episcopalian church? No, they're not. Why are you held hostage to that kind of dialogue? I think this dialogue should be broken, because it's absolutely useless, and it's worse than useless. It engenders complicity. So it has to be stopped. That's one way to fight this Presbyterian discussion, I think.